Hi everyone, my name is Leisha Brunash. I'm here on Q Live with Tracy Walker. Tracy is from Novato Unified School District and she's a member of the North Bay Q Board. And she's also been presenting here at Q today on a lot of cool stuff. Tracy, tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to Q this year.
So I am in my 19th year of teaching sixth grade. I actually teach at the same middle school that I went to as a kid. I actually have one of my teachers is still there, which I'm so lucky to have that pleasure of teaching with a former teacher. What brought me here is the fact that I had the ability to present with an amazing friend who I met through Twitter. Her name is Jessica Pack, and we just finished our presentation on how to help students make better film.
Wonderful. And I read on your Twitter that you are a Disney fan.
Yes, my husband would say that that money goes to the mouse in our house. That we go to Disneyland a lot. Yes, we do. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old, and I think my daughter was 3 months old when she went to Disneyland.
And what was the presentation you did today was Disney inspired in a sense, right?
In a sense, with a loose connection between the Star Wars and Disney. So Jessica really likes Star Wars, and I like Star Wars too. In fact, some of my students have family members who work for Lucasfilms.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so where we live, there's a lot of folks that work on the Star Wars films. And so when Jessica pitched it to me, let's do it Star Wars theme, I went, sure, why not? And what I like is if you've seen the last couple of movies, we decided to incorporate going rogue, how to defeat the dark side to make better student video. And so our whole thing was Star Wars themed. But it really worked, I think, for our presentation.
Love it, love it. And I'm sure your kids get a kick out of you being a Star Wars fan as well.
Yeah, I kind of keep it on the down low, you know. They think I'm a nerd about Disney stuff, but maybe not so much about the Star Wars.
So recently, last year, right, you got involved with Leroy's Big Idea. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were a finalist for that?
Yeah, so I believe there was 5 Leroy's Big Ideas finalists.
Right, before you go any further, there's probably a lot of folks that don't know anything about Leroy's Big Idea or what it is. Can you give us just a little quick elevator speech about Leroy's Big Idea, what it is, what it's all about?
So Leroy Finkel was a member of Q, and he was one of the leading innovators when it came to technology in the classroom. And so they have created this way to honor all the amazing things he's done for educators and education by creating this scholarship or this fellowship, Leroy Finkel Fellowship. And so there was 5 or 6 of us that were finalists, and we all had to pitch an idea that was innovative that we would use in our classroom. And as a finalist, if you were selected, you received $500 for your idea. I know. And then from there, we had to present, and this was probably the scariest thing I've ever done. We had to present in that Primrose B or Primrose A, one of the biggest rooms ever.
Oh yeah, that's the big room.
We had to pitch our idea, and I think that was probably actually, besides having children, I would say that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Definitely the hardest thing, because it was full, and I was so nervous because I felt like I really wanted my idea to be successful. But because it was so much, my heart was so much in it, I think a lot of I got scared and I got nervous. Although I knew my presentation back and forward, I kind of feel like I blew it.
So can you tell us a little bit about the idea that you did have?
Oh, yeah. I actually really like my idea. I feel like...
I'm sure it's a great idea.
Oh, yeah, you don't even know my idea.
You know what? It's a winner in my book.
Oh, well, thank you. So my Leroy's Big Idea, it comes from a student who I have permission to talk about. So
okay, great.
His name is Sebastian, and I had asked his mom if I could, use him in my presentation last year. Sebastian was kind of struggling in my 6th grade class, and so the way I was watching him in my class, I was just wondering if he just didn't know where to start. So I was wondering, how could we make learning more transparent in the classroom? And my class had just become selected as a pilot, one-to-one Chromebook pilot. So we had access to technology. And so I thought, what about if students were not just focused on the final product, which is always like, so say if I had handed you a paper and you saw, oh, I've got an A and all the people around you, and then you have something that's less than everybody else.
Right.
what if we showed what was the process for that student to get to that final destination? Maybe Sebastian didn't know how to get from point A to B. Maybe he needed to see what was working for other students and have that vision and take what they're doing and maybe remix it to make it work for him. So my idea was that students would have video reflections about what they were doing in class while they were working on a product. With project-based learning. So what would they do? They would take video evidence and they would put that into Google Slides that would then be shown in the classroom so students would be able to see really what was inside everybody's brain.
And that metacognition going on, and then also that reflection piece.
Yeah, so that was my big idea.
Well, it's a great idea.
Well, thank you. I think it's a good idea too. So.
And the whole idea of mastery-based learning and showing that progress instead of just seeing that final product, I think is brilliant, and that's what learning's all about. So.
Yeah, I think it's more, and it's taken me probably 19 years to get here, but I think it's more about the process than the final product. So.
Absolutely, right? It's all about the journey. Well, I have to ask you, since you had your kids doing these videos, or you had this idea, I want to ask you a little bit about tools, like your favorite video tools that you would use with your students, your sixth graders in the classroom. What kind of tools did you envision using in that project? You talked about Google Slides. What else would be involved for maybe teachers that don't really know how to get started with something like this, but would like to implement something similar?
Well, I think the easiest way to go about it is use a tool that students are already familiar. So I know that although my students are 11 or 12 years old, a lot of them have some kind of phone that they take videos and, funny cat videos, or they usually are a lot of, they consume a lot of
media,
of content,
right? Yeah.
But they don't produce a lot. But I figured that whatever platform that they're already using, why not leverage that and use that in the classroom? So it's not like you're having to teach them one more thing, but then you can have them make better videos because you teach them how to make it better.
Right. I mean, they all know. All of our students know how to use their phones very well. So they were using their own phones to do this.
That was my idea, but using that information of how they use their phones to transfer that over to just using, the classroom iPads that have, a little bit more, using iMovie and things like that. So that way they could use the video there, and if they needed to edit it, which I didn't say you had to edit it unless they were a little bit pickier about it than I was.
Isn't that amazing how when kids see themselves on video, they want to revise, and when they're writing a paper, do they ever want to revise?
Some do. But I think it's like how, when we're on camera, we also want to make sure we look our best, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing. I get it.
And that public product, putting their videos out there, is a big part of that as well. And seeing their classmates' videos is a huge part of that as well.
Yeah, and that way they can reflect on learning what other people are doing around you. So that way you can grab that idea and use it for yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy, you have amazing ideas, and I want people to be able to get in touch with you or follow you or come to more of your amazing presentations. So I know you're probably on Twitter.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell us how we can find out more information about you and learn from everything you're doing in your classroom?
The easiest way to find me is on Twitter, which is @edutrace, EDUTRACE. That's the easiest way to find me. I'm on there a lot. That's where I get all my best ideas, and that's where I find the best connections with other teachers.
And hopefully you'll be back at Q events in the future to present these great ideas to more of our teachers.
I hope so, definitely.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Tracy. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Leisha.